I've got a quick question for you, alright? I wanna hear your thoughts, I wanna know what's on your mind. I've got a quick question for you, alright? The answer's not important, I'm just glad that we could talk tonight. So what's your favourite? How did you get? When will I be remembered? Was it ever? Where did all go? How do we know? Oh, forget it. Soren, Bowie, Daniel O'Brien, two best friends and comedy writers. If there's an answer, they're gonna find it. I think you'll have a great time here. I think you'll have a great time here.
So, hello again and welcome to another episode of Quick Question with Soren and Daniel, the podcast where two best friends and comedy writers ask each other questions and give each other answers. I am one half of that podcast, senior writer for Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, author of How to Fight Presidents, and coming to you for the very last time on this podcast as an unmarried man, Daniel O'Brien, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Soren Bowie, who is married and therefore boring.
Right, yeah, all that. I have a quick question.
What's that? What's up?
Poor listeners to this podcast, when this became a very visual podcast at some point. Daniel is wearing a bandana on his head.
Yeah.
Now, there's lots of different ways to wear a bandana. He's not doing it like Tupac, and he's not doing it like Debrat. He is instead got it folded like Tupac, but then it's actually the knots where it's supposed to be in the back.
Yeah.
He like Danielson from Karate Kid. That's what it looks like.
It's a very, I think listeners who can't see the podcast, they should crucially know that it's a very wide bandana. I'm using it at its widest bit from like, or maybe tall is better, from like top to bottom it's wide, because you might think like, oh, it's a bandana, maybe it's wrapped around his entire head, pulled around in the back. No, it's not quite that. Or maybe it's like a thin 2-inch or like 1.5-inch band.
Not that either.
Just covers a little bit of his forehead. No. It's about 4 inches of bandana that is covering a big part of my head.
It's like you would imagine a sushi chef at a restaurant where the emblem of the restaurant is really big, and so their bandanas have to be really long and big.
I have at various points of my life really tried to make bandanas a thing that I wore unironically and in a cool way. And it's never worked. It's never fit with the rest of my style, because it's not a top-down rebrand. It's just a top rebrand. The rest of me is still very much the clothing, the J. Crew Express stuff that I've been wearing for 15 or 20 years at this point. But bandanas, I think, are just like a fun little bit of accessory that every couple of years I will try them out again, and someone will say, no, don't do it. It's not working. Including me. I am sometimes the someone that I'm talking about. But I don't know, I wore it to the gym this morning and I was feeling confident with it in this particular style. Yeah, I think this bandana in this style is less aggressive than like the full head cover bandana. But it's still like a statement. And the statement is, I am protecting my face from sweat and looking interesting while doing it.
So it does have a utilitarian purpose for you. It's not just an aesthetic home run, I'm going to say.
And I think I've read one study or saw a tweet or heard in a podcast or heard in a YouTube video that wearing hats contributes to hair loss. And I never looked into it, but it was enough to scare the living daylights out of me that I just didn't want to have. I'm almost always running with a hat or working out with a hat.
Yeah.
And I'm worried about that, that's got to do something, right? To trap all the sweat on top of your head in a little cave like that, that's got to do something. So I want to...
I don't know.
I want to stop sweat from coming in my face while also freeing my hair at the top of my head to breathe a little bit.
Yeah, giving that hair plenty of room to find purchase and grow.
Yeah.
So what's your stance on like visors or on headbands?
Visors, I think, are pretty stupid.
Okay.
And headbands, I've never truly considered a headband because I don't think a bandana, at least, you can look at a design you like and have some kind of aesthetic control over how it looks. Bandana, like sweatbands for the head are so unconcerned with aesthetics. It's truly just utilitarian, and like they know that no one is going to look good in them. You know, it might as well be medical scrubs at that point. It is just a clowny looking piece of athletic equipment. Yeah. And I just don't, that serves one of my purposes, but not more than that.
I mean, I'm not sure I totally agree with you. I think that you're right that it has no concern with aesthetic. Like that the headband has never concerned itself with trying to look good. And I think that on some people that can come all the way around the other side into looking very fashionable. Like there are a lot of guitarists or people in rock bands that wear a headband and it has wrapped all the way back around to like, fuck, that looks so cool. Like they are really rocking that headband.
Yeah, some guitarists wear buckets, you idiot. They're a rock. I'm not a rock star. They're allowed to do whatever dumb shit they want. I'm out on these streets, Soren. So I need to look a little bit cool.
Handkerchief wrapped around your head.
Correct. Yeah.
Because I'll say handkerchiefs around the head also work. Well, a very handkerchief heavy gentleman is Steven Tyler, and I think that it works really well for him. You can really rock. What is that confusing to you? Do you not agree with that?
He doesn't wear them on his head, right?
Yeah,
he has a bunch of like scarves wrapped around his mic stand.
He's got scarves, and he wears bandanas around his head too. Yeah. I think that it's this is all a very long walk to say. I think it can look very cool, Daniel, and I think that you're nearing that. I think you're getting close.
Years ago, did a little solo trip to Catalina Island and stayed in a villa. And you're like right on the like cliffs of this little island, and it looks very much like Italian cliff sides, and all these villas are styled to look like that. And I was on a solo trip. I was by myself. I was fishing, and I was enjoying the local culture and doing a lot of hiking and seeing the sights and the bison and golfing and doing all this stuff. And took a picture. I was very happy with wearing a full bandana, and a coworker that I don't even speak to that often saw the picture on Instagram, and she was like, "We have to talk. You can't do this. We have to talk about it. You can't. What's going on here?" And I'm just like, "Just let me do it on vacation, at least, please." I'm not like trying to vote in this or anything or going to the bank. I'm just like, we're all different people on vacation. Come on.
Well, what I love about the constant resurgence for you of the headband and really checking in every once in a while to see, is this working yet? Is that we're not getting the first taste of that. There is a moment where you are alone in your house and you see a headband, and I mean a handkerchief, and you put it on in front of a mirror, and then there's like, I would assume, like any normal human, 5 or 6 minutes of you checking out the angles, thinking of the different things you might be doing that day and how it might look, like doing maybe a little jog in front of the mirror, or like seeing how it's going to play out in the field. Yeah. And that's really a treat for me to picture you alone going through the motions of like, okay, let's check off the day and see if this thing's going to work in all those circumstances. What about me at the bank?
This is just as fun as you're picturing. I was wearing this at the bank today. We get when you some Hollywood inside scoop for all you folks out there. When you write for a TV show, you sometimes get residual checks, and I say sometimes. It happens 4 times a year by quarter, and depending on the show, it's a lot of money or not a lot of money, but it is almost always a lot of checks. You'll get a giant envelope full of checks that are each for like 98 cents to $6.49. For some reason, this is not direct deposit. We haven't figured out a way to get that money directly into our accounts. And B, they haven't figured out a system where they can just put all of the checks. The Writers Guild can't put all of the checks in one larger check of the full amount and give that to you. This technology is light years away from our wonderful union. So you just get a giant garbage bag envelope full of checks for 30 cents to $6.
If I had a nickel for every check I got for residuals, I'd be very rich. Unfortunately, they're not worth a nickel.
No. That would be a much better deal. But so you got to go to the bank, and because I'm not business, if you were a business, you could put all of your checks with like one deposit slip and hand in this stack of 60 checks to someone and it gets deposited. I'm not that. I'm an individual, so I have to deposit my own checks to my own account. You can only deposit 10 checks at a time. So I am at the bank 4 times a year, taking up a lot of time in an ATM vestibule, depositing, 65 checks worth $50 total, 10 at a time, into a very old machine. And I did that today, sleeveless and wearing this bandana. So to your point,
so cool.
It's exactly... I should have auditioned in front of a mirror what that would look like, because the only person who knows what it really looked like to be behind someone wearing a bandana at an ATM is the woman who was behind me for a while until she got bored of waiting and then left.
She's like, I can bank another day. This is not worth it.
Yeah, this guy's got more checks in his hand than anyone I've ever seen in my life, and he's got no sleeves and he's wearing a bandana. This can't be my Thursday morning. I have to go. I will find another bank.
If I was her and I saw you in that full glory, I think my first instinct would be, oh, this is a scam. This man has figured out a scam. That's a scammer. I can tell by the way he's dressed. He's wearing the uniform, and I don't know what his angle is or how he's done it, but he's collected 14,000 checks, and now he's got to deposit all of them.
And I wonder, because she walked in at some point and I looked over my shoulder to confirm that there was someone behind me. And she probably thought, he must be self-conscious about the bandana. No, ma'am. I'm self-conscious about the checks. I'm self-conscious that I'm spending 25 minutes in this vestibule for what is going to be maybe $70 worth of 65 checks.
And I'm sure that was very helpful for the sweat in that circumstance.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do understand.
Where do we go from here, Soren?
Well, a bandana is something that I tried to audition when I was young. When I was like, I'd done football. I was in 7th and 8th grade, where I was like, let's see if this will play. Let's see if this is, when you're still deciding who you're going to be. And I was like, at football practice, you get helmets that they give you. Like where you just get the one they give you, whether it fits or not. Yeah. And I found that the helmets were not very comfortable and very tight. And I hated it. And I felt like it was like every time I take it off, I'd have that big Peyton Manning red mark on the front of my forehead. And I thought, this isn't the life. This can't be it. We didn't learn until years later was unrelated to the football helmets. That's just the peculiarities of that man's head. And so my dad was like, why don't you just put something under it? And I was like, oh my God, this is a 2 birds, 1 stone situation. And I didn't do the Danielson like headband where it's just a strip. I wanted the full headband because you have to remember, this is the 90s, and that was cool. That was a very cool thing to have a full handkerchief over your head. And so I started doing that. And I would wear it with the football helmet, and it worked. And I was like, oh, fuck. I'm going to be a guy with a headband. And then tried to take it off the field into the field of life. And it was, immediately shut down. Middle school. Yeah. So anything different, kids are like, they zero in on it like zombies. They're just like, oh, different. And then I was mercilessly ridiculed and stopped doing it, and even stopped doing it in football, because when I would take off my helmet on the sideline, I would get more shit about it because I once tried it in science or whatever.
Yeah.
So if I am dismissive of your handkerchief at all today, Daniel, know that a lot of that is born from my own sting and what the emotional pain that I felt when I was young.
Yeah.
It's looking good.
I
man.
figured.
So, actually, the way your hair pops out the top is good.
I know. It's pretty chill.
How does Shay feel about it?
How does Shay feel about my bandanas?
Yeah.
Real great.
That's not that's a lost in translation thing happening, I think. I know that smile. Something she has said something perhaps critical, and you've decided to edit it.
No, she didn't say anything. It was a look. One of those looks that she gives me. Where I know I'm on the right track. We don't even need to say anything at all.
The wedding hasn't happened yet. There's still time to bail. So another thing I notice is that when I try to really take a big swing, and that could be like a really cool pair of sunglasses even, you have to be doing something very cool for them to work at all. I've had moments where like they get askew because I'm busy doing something else and I can't focus on what's on my face. And it goes immediately from something that you feel like the coolest, that you made a really good decision, to I need to never wear these again because this is a disaster. Like they're sliding down my nose and this isn't cool. And I'm wondering if you've had that experience with the bandana yet, where you get tripped or something and it falls over your eyes and you're looking around going, "Hey, who turned out the lights?" or anything like that.
So far, that exact scenario has not happened. No, I've been very lucky that I've just been running and sometimes working out and sometimes just podcasting in one of these. Another reason that I've felt emboldened to do it is our friends Brian and Nick, who go by Britannic, they have a podcast called Cash Grab, and you could subscribe to it on their thing, or you can catch little bits and pieces of it on Instagram where they post video clips of it. And they, for all of like the pomp that you and I have put into our backgrounds, where we're always in the same spot and we're generally dressed in clothing and have like our backdrops behind us that make us feel vaguely professional, they are like fucking in bed or like sprawled out, laying down or on their bellies, and like one of them once had like a towel wrapped around their wet hair the way that moms do. And it's just like, A, these guys don't give a hoot because it's podcasting and that's fine, and B, I don't know, it adds a little something dynamic to the video aspect of things that, who knows, maybe people are going to see this video pop up on their Instagram feed and be like, I want to hear what these guys have to say. I hope they talk about the bandana.
We do. Good news.
Depending on how this gets clipped.
When I watch Britannic do their podcast, I see them laying down. My first instinct as a podcaster is, where the fuck's his microphone? What? How come he doesn't have to have this big thing next to his face the whole time? Can I do that? Then I see them sometimes in front of like a grass wall on a couch, and I'm like, what? Where are they? What is this? Did he leave the Emmys to go do this podcast real quick outside? What is going on?
We had one of my old coworkers, Ben, when we would do rewrite, and rewrite at our job is the longest Zoom meeting that there is, because you're going through the script line by line. And, I'm always in my same spot whenever I'm Zooming anything at work. But Ben, when he knew it was time for the long meeting, and like this is very indicative of Ben, a very not give a hoot kind of person, he would take his computer, which had his camera and all of his computer stuff on it, and put it on his belly and lay on his back on a couch. And like, no one has ever looked good from that angle of camera on belly facing you while you're on your back. And he did not care, couldn't care less. And we're seeing like so much more of his house and his torso than we're supposed to see. But he is just the like clearly the most comfortable person in this meeting, as the rest of us are all like sitting up straight, and he's not reprimanded for it, and it's just like it's a very intuitive, well, I'm at home and this meeting is going to be long, I might as well be comfortable. And I really respect and admire that, even though I'm incapable of it my own self, because
I don't think you are, Daniel.
I'm a strange robot. You don't think I am?
I'm now having a memory multiple times that we would be in meetings for Cracked, and you would stand up in the middle of the meeting, possibly while talking. You would walk over, you'd gently push your chair in, you'd walk over to the floor, and just lie down on the floor for a while, and continue talking like you were David Milch.
A couple things Deadwood. There. One, I had back pain, and two, I was always doing that when I... Such bad management. When I was like the senior ranking person in the room is when I would have the least professional behavior. I'm not going to do that when my bosses are watching me, but when I'm the boss,
set
goodness, heavens.
Anyway, I'm just saying I believe in you, your ability to actually sit down on your couch. But I agree with you that when I see people in repose in their own house, I'm like, immediately it's like recognizing somebody in porn. I'm like, oh, I'm not supposed to, this isn't for me. I'm not supposed to see this. And like my instinct is to look away.
Yeah. Should we get into the show?
No, because I need to tell you a story now.
All right.
Your headband is reminding me. My son went to school in a headband today. He has one of those ones that is, he's got one of the ones that's actually a headband. It's not like it's not a moisture wicking one. It's one that's meant to be tied in the back like a ninja.
Okay.
It has the same length and thinness as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle mask, but it goes on your forehead. Okay. Because my son is having his fun run at school. And the whole week leading up to the fun run is you remember these things where you would have to like raise money for the school somehow. And within doing so, depending on how much you raised, you could like earn different gifts. Right? Yes. So his is not, for me as this weird agrarian town that I lived in, for me it was selling apples. We could talk about that later.
God almighty.
Selling boxes of apples and you could win magazine subscriptions or something like that.
Well, little Soren, we didn't quite get the rain we'd hoped for, so unfortunately, this is going to seem like a weird way to get from A to C, but the school won't be funded this year because it didn't rain.
We're not getting that gym we'd all been hearing about from other schools.
No one's going to be allowed to graduate because of the harsh winter.
We would sell apples, and then it's so fucking quaint. I look back on. I didn't know it at the time, but anyway, his school is you sponsor him for a certain number of laps that he'll do in this fun run, and so you got to try to get family involved. And then at each stage during the where you're trying to raise the money. The school gets different things. So if the kids, obviously, they get stuff for if they raise over $5 a lap or whatever. And then the school itself, if the child has so many shares, which means that the parents shared it a certain number of times, they get extra stuff for their class, like a pizza party, or they don't have to do homework on Thursday. In addition, if they get out-of-state money, like people from grandparents from other states are like, oh, I'll sponsor for $1 a lap, and how much money they earn there, they get another additional stuff. So he's been like pumped up on this whole program all week. And I'm of two minds about it, obviously, because it's for profit. A lot of that money is not going to the school at all. I would assume probably even 50% of it is not going to the school, maybe more. But it is the only way that a lot of parents who wouldn't ordinarily donate to the school do donate. So I understand why they're doing it. It's just at every single turn, I see him getting like hooked in this thing, and it pisses me off that they're doing this to the kids.
I was going to ask, why didn't I get any like opportunity to donate and support your son running?
I won't share
I understand
because I donate to the school separately.
Right. And I don't want to, and if I'd known, I never would have given my money just so Mayor Garcetti can knock a bunch of unhoused people into a swamp or whatever. I'm not this mad about it.
There we go.
But
I wish we had swamps around here. I mean, imagine that water, just like standing water around. Oh, the city, just too much water. We would be in heaven. But the problem is that as he's doing this, if we don't participate at all, then it's like a social pariah situation. Like he doesn't have shit. He's watching all these kids get sunglasses around him and socks and stuff, and he's got nothing. And he doesn't, and they don't understand at 9 years old why they're not allowed to participate in this thing.
Yeah.
And so we obviously let him do it. And so we encourage, like, we will get him, we'll be like, what is the thing from this list of the schlock that they try to give you that you want? And he'll be like, I want the car. And we're like, well, we're not going that far. What about this bandana? And he's like, yes, I want the bandana. And we're like, all right, well, we'll donate exactly enough for you to get the bandana. He got the bandana. There's also a raffle at one point, which he calls a rifle, something I'm not going to fix because I think it's very cute.
Okay.
He won the raffle too. So he
Even
got
though
a bunch of the Apex stuff.
In our dark and depressing times, that this will, in a sitcom style hijink, will lead to him coming home and saying there was another rifle at school, and you're not going to know which thing he's talking about because that's the kind of world we live in. Too dark for the pod?
You're absolutely right. That hasn't happened yet, surprisingly.
Great.
But yeah, he got very excited about rifle tickets and then won the rifle and got a bunch of Apex gear that way. And so today he went to the fun run fucking decked out. He went wearing everything. He had the shades. He's got these knee-high socks that he's really excited about for reasons I don't understand. He's got bracelets up and down his arms, a snap bracelet on the other one, and
hell yeah.
He's wearing like the colors of Apex and everything, and he was so pumped. And I was like, dude, I just want to make sure that when you go out there to do the run, I know you're not allowed to bring your backpack out there, but please try to bring your sweatshirt. And he's like, why? And I was like, because two laps in, you're going to want to take off all this shit and you need a place to put it. The other kids aren't just going to scoop it up. I just want you to have a pile that's donated, like that's specifically yours, dedicated to you. And you can put stuff in the pockets if you need to, because you are not going to want to wear this stuff for more than 20 seconds. So I'm curious to see how it will go. If he wears the headband the whole time, what he does.
Did you say that there was the school had added an element to the donations that was about social shares that the parents do? Yeah. This has
cursed me my whole
disgusting.
Life. I know. Well, you think about what we used to work for a company that did that. Demand Media as a whole, or Leaf Group, or whoever owned Cracked at any given time would be like, hey, we've got this other company called Society 6, and anyone who shares their stuff on social media, they're going to get a discount at Society 6.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, everyone in the company would be like, great, my social media is dog shit, no problem. And they would just share it. Whereas we'd spent so much time just thinking about our social media profiles and building it one by one person by one that when that stuff came up and they're like, you have to do it, we'd be like, you don't understand, you're fucking me here. Like, I made all of these followers. I'm very precious about this silly thing that doesn't matter because I worked very hard at it. And now you're asking me to dilute it with ads. I'm not going to do that. And that's been the case throughout my son's whole school tenure, throughout my other job. Like, it sucks.
Yeah. The difference between what Demand Media Leaf Group did and this situation is that this is school. This is school. It's school. It's an institution, and I know it's a business, and I know there are lots of problems with schools, but just the idea of a school being so... I don't even want to say the school is thirsty for shares. I believe the thirst comes from a real need. There's some pressure from somewhere. Someone has automated a system such that school administrators feel incentivized to get social shares, and that is very unpleasant to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
As just like a new form of currency that I'm okay when a bunch of dumb fucking yahoos in Silicon Valley are spreading the gospel of shares, but when it's like when a teacher needs to care about social shares, and as a result the kids need to care about it, it just seems like, what are we doing? Why are we doing it?
They do need to care. This is a third-party organization that runs all of this, so it is very much like Leaf Group, where it was like they want to advertise the name of this company, which I'm not even going to share on their behalf on this podcast. But like advertise their company, they want the kids to share that. They want the parents to share that stuff. So it isn't just the school, but the school does benefit from it. So if they get it, then the class gets something specific, and it starts to get very gray and slippery there. Yeah, so the whole thing's very gross, and it's very hard to explain to children why it's gross. And so I'm just like, I do a little bit every single year. We just chip away at this thing that he loves, and then give him the bare minimum, and then we wait again for another year where I have to do it all again. What it reminds me of? When I was a child, and my mom each year would float the idea to our family at Christmas that maybe we wouldn't do a tree this year, and it would drive me.
I was gonna say everything is a little bit Thanksgiving. Everything is like every year you have to peel back another layer and explain why this fun thing is a bad thing.
Right. Yeah.
And we're not gonna stop because we can't.
And so you don't anticipate that coming up when you're like looking forward to the event, this thing that you love as a kid. You know that someone you love and respect and you're loyal to will every single year be like, you know why this isn't as good as you think it is? And you have to be like, stop doing that to me, please. Yeah. So I'm doing that to my children now too. It's all part of the tradition.
Well, speaking of kids, Soren, that talks to something that I wanted to talk to you about today, and we've reached the titular moment of quick question. We're going to have a quick question for you, but not before a quick story. Something great. I noticed about myself recently is that I was walking around my apartment building, and we have a little like alley that cuts in the middle of our apartment building, and I was going through there, and a kid, probably 10 or 11 years old, was like, "Hey, did you see the bat?" And I said, "No," and he points, and there's a bat in like the ceiling, just hanging out there, and he's like, "There's the bat." I'm like, "Whoa!" And he said, "Yeah. It's been there this whole time. And last year, we had a bat right above our door." And I was like, "No way." He was like, "Yeah, it was just hanging out there." I was like, "Did it ever fly inside?" He said, "No." And I was like, "That's really cool. Hey, thank you for showing me this stuff." And he was like, "No problem."
Yeah.
And he ran away. And I really enjoyed that interaction. And as I was walking from there to my front door, I was hit with the realization, this is the energy that I bring to my relationship with Shay as well. As I was already thinking about how I was going to tell her the story of the bat, I realized that I very much have like the lack of a filter that a child has, and the absolute need to share every single thing that happened in a day, whether it's a story or not. And I would argue that the bat thing is a story, but regardless, that is the same energy that I bring when, because I work from home all the time, and my fiance sometimes goes into an office, and when she comes home, I have to sit for a while until I tell her everything that's happened. And very often, the stuff that's happened is like a really big slug that I saw, or a really big bee that I saw, or someone getting something almost wrong at the checkout line at a store. All of these things that are stories that wouldn't make the podcast, because I have the good sense to self-filter and be like, that's not really content. That filter is gone when it comes to my poor fiance when I haven't seen her for 4 hours. Then it's like, oh boy, I can't wait to tell her about how I almost bought shoes today but didn't. That's a story. I can't wait. I can't fucking wait for her to ask me about my day so I could tell her about this goddamn slug. And I think brought me to my quick question for you, which was, how do you talk to your wife when she gets home from work and you haven't seen her in a while? is it similar, or are you?
Yeah,
Do you
I think
only
that's the
save
whole
the
reason
good
to have a
stuff?
significant other. The significant other is
Good.
there to tell all of your stories that aren't stories yet. Stuff where, yeah, like the other day, I came out of this podcast and I do it in my garage and I was walking back to my house. It's a very long walk. I have big property. And there was a hawk eating a rat in the middle of my yard. And I was like, fuck yeah, Colleen's going to hear about this. And I was so excited just to tell her. Like the whole event wasn't even done yet. I didn't like, the hawk was just like looking at me like, oh shit, do I have to move? And I was already like pumped. I was already pumped that I was going to get to tell Colleen about a hawk. And then it kind of like, it didn't really like me there much. And I tried to walk into the house, but as I was walking very quietly, it got up and flew up to our second floor of the 10 that we have. And it's like perched on the balcony and then started eating the rat there instead because it felt a little safer. But it still watched me. And I was like, a new thing. It went to it went up by our bedroom. Oh, I can't wait. And like texted her even. I was like, I've got something crazy to tell you about an animal in our backyard. As I'm thinking about it too. So I'm going to back up just a little bit here. We had a cat. Our cat's name was Davina. Davina, about 2 months ago, was eaten by a coyote.
Fuck. So sorry.
I know. Very sad. Children.
One of our listeners scooped that before I did. Because you used past tense when referring to Davina, and one of our YouTube commenters clocked it and was wondering if the cat was okay. And I read the comments like a hawk, but didn't clock the thing that you said to me into a microphone and on camera. That went right over my head, but this commenter was right on top of it.
So she is no more, unfortunately. Very sad. And the person who took it the hardest was my wife. And as I'm like thinking about it and thinking about this hawk, so our daughter, as I've talked about on the show, frequently talks about how next time she wants to be a bird. When she says next time, she just means this concept of reincarnation that we did not instill in her, that she just decided on is what happens. So I was like, oh shit, our cat, that's exactly the killing fields for our cat. That's where our cat used to take everything to kill it because that's where it felt most comfortable. And here we have this yard in which a hawk has decided this looks like the best place for me to eat this thing and has landed there. And so I was like, now it's a story. Now I can tell her. And so brought that to her and with the, like, you know, the tongue-in-cheek suggestion that this is our cat. And she really appreciated that. She liked that. I will say not all my stories are that cohesive and good. Usually it is stuff like, there's the biggest spider outside. I try to take a picture of it, but it's too blurry. We're just going to have to go look at it together. I'm going to have to chase it out because it lives in the gutter some of the time. That kind of
Shay
thing.
will, when I send her a picture of a large bee that I've found on a run or a walk, she will dutifully respond with like the 2 exclamation mark emoji, which is really all I need out of that. But she found another great workaround when her parents were in town, and I was walking Jackson and I saw a bird had gotten away with a huge fish that it found, and it was like attacking the fish here on land, far from the ocean. And like trying to pick it up and fly with it, but it was like clearly too big for the bird, but it wasn't going to give it up or share it. And I was like watching this bird battle with this fish, and I was filming it because it was so close, and I like a story was brewing, and the story begins and ends with, look, it's a bird and a fish. And I got home and I showed the video to Shay, and she was like, you should show that to my dad. And that is the right audience. That's some great dad energy. That he was the perfect vessel for what I wanted. I was like, look at this fish with this bird. And he's like, wow, gosh, how far do you think you had to carry that? I was like, wow, gosh is right. Let's fucking get into it.
Someone who's going to match your energy with that shit is really, really nice. It's really great to have somebody who does that. So she's now ricocheted off onto her dad. And you can do that with him from now on. He can be your wife. But yeah, and I will, when you have children, a lot of that goes to them. A lot of the stuff that you see throughout the day that is not quite a story is going to go to them because they also don't know what a story is supposed to be. So they will match your energy no matter what. As long as you bring something like, you bring like a certain like vibe to it, they're doing the same thing back at you. They're like, and you get to the end and my son will just go, wow. And that's really what I want from those.
I was hoping that, but we had my brother and sister-in-law and their kids over the summer, and we have like a river with docks in our backyard. And we were walking around, and I was showing my nephew, who was 7 years old, just the area. And you can see these weird horizontal sticks at a slight incline. They're for storing kayaks, but they were empty, so it was just like a series of bars over by the docks where the boats are. And he said, "Uncle, what are those sticks for?" And I said, and I was excited to share information. I was like, "Why, some of the neighbors like to store their kayaks there. They take the kayaks out and they go paddling right there in the river." And I used that voice and said those words and everything. And as soon as I was done explaining that, he goes, "Wow, and he had like a nerd voice for me.
He copied you.
It's like, you're the only one who's going to think this is interesting.
You got bullied by your 7-year-old nephew.
No.
He doesn't even know what bullying is. He doesn't even know that what he did was spiteful. He just heard something outlandish. It was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'm going to make that noise. Right.
One of two things is happening. Either he can just sense in his bones from like something prehistoric inside him that I scream out to be bullied, or that's the voice that his family uses when they're talking about me at home. I really hope it's the first thing.
Oh man, it's 50-50, honestly. He was, in his mind, building a story for his dad. He was like, as soon as you did that, he's like, "Oh, Dad's going to love to hear about this. Uncle Dan did this fucking kayak thing. It was ridiculous." I'm going to have to draw pictures of this so I remember. Can't wait till I learn how to write. I don't know what to tell you. I will. Yeah. So sometimes with my children, stuff just does not land, and you get kind of over that pretty quick. Because I have another audience that angle might be just right for, which is my wife. And if it's not right for my wife, then I'll bring it to my brother. And I'm going to get it from somewhere. I'm going to get what I want from somebody. But yeah,
someone is going to be excited about the size of this fucking bee. It can't just be me. I can't be the only one.
Yeah, I was really excited about a spider belly recently. We're in spider season in Los Angeles right now, which is a real thing. And thankfully it happens right around Halloween, but we're just overrun. We're inundated with spiders. And some of them I feel like I've never seen before. It feels like every year they invent a new kind. Go ahead.
What kind of spiders are you inundated with?
Okay, great question, Dan. Yes, Daniel. Sometimes I bring my things to you. Orb weavers, primarily. Orb weavers, but it does seem like there's a lot of different types. There's also, we get brown widows, we get jumping spiders, and sometimes we get some iridescent jumping spiders, which look like they have like that green shininess of a scarab, but they're a spider. It's very cool. But orb weavers primarily, and it does seem like we're getting new versions all the time. And the other day there was a giant orb weaver that was connected to my car, and I had a real conundrum because I wasn't sure if I needed to go somewhere, but I was like, it's only 4 miles. Could I just bike there so that I don't fuck this up for him? But he's a big spider, and I could see he was on the other side of the web. So I got to see his belly, and the belly was so interesting and like brightly colored. And he had these white stripes just on the inside. And I was like,
oh,
fuck yeah, like this is a good spider. We found a good spider here. And I really wanted to share it with somebody. And I was like, the same way where like I pull a bunch of wax out of my ear and I'm like, okay, I can either take a picture of this or I should save it because Colleen will need to know. She'll need to know what happened here.
it's so humiliating to realize that I have the same energy as a 10-year-old boy seeing a bat. And it comes in very clear reality to me if I'm like scrolling through my phone pictures looking for something, and just the amount of pictures that are like large bugs and birds doing stuff and fish doing things and just like different. There's so many fucking bugs that I didn't share with anyone on my phone. That was like, man, that was a stupid thing to take. I should just delete it. But it is pretty big. I don't know. I'll hold on to it. What if I need it someday?
The problem is that even the picture won't do justice, because you take a picture of something fantastic and it never looks, you don't have the proper context of size, the color's wrong. It just never pans out.
Yeah.
So only you have is like, it's like basically just a shortcut to your memory of it.
Right. And also, a picture doesn't capture the most important thing about the story, which was that I saw it. I was there. You know, this picture could have come from anyone. But like, you'll never believe
part of the
what
story
I
too.
saw today.
I don't think you should feel too badly about that. I think that that's probably good, and probably maybe even one of the reasons why she's marrying you. I think that that's a really admirable quality to have, is somebody who's just so excited about their day, anything that happens in their day, and wants to share that with their significant other.
Yeah, it's all going to go straight into my vows. Great.
Yeah, I would love to hear about the bugs you found in the vows. That would be...
Dear Shay, before you, I kept all these bees to myself. Now, finally.
To pull out a speech and be like, you know what? I did write something, but I'm going to be honest with you, Shay. There was the craziest lizard I saw right as I was walking out, and I don't think it can wait.
Yeah. From the moment I saw this snail outside of our wedding venue, I knew I had to tell Shay.
Thank you all for listening to this podcast. 1 second. I need to pull up. There it is. There's some very
so
specific
much
things
like
I'm
we're ending the
say.
podcast forever right now. You've been a
thank you all
fantastic
for listening to
audience.
the podcast. Go on with your lives. I wish them nothing but the best for you. This podcast is a quick question. You know that. We are Daniel and Soren. You can find us on Blue Sky. You can still find this podcast has its own channel. What the fuck? What do you call it on X?
What?
Profile.
Account?
Yeah, account. There are accounts on Blue Sky
Tune into
too.
the
I
Quick
just
Question
forgot the word.
channel on Twitter.
QQ still has its own account on X. You can follow us there. There are little snippets of video and stuff that you'll see there occasionally, or you can ask questions there. We also have an email. I don't remember what it is. You probably can't Google that, but we're not checking it anyway. So ask us somewhere else. We have Instagram. We've got a... no, I guess that's it. Instagram and... Boy, I'm not doing a good job of this. This is going really poorly. If you liked our theme song, that's by Me Rex. You can find their music on Spotify or anywhere you listen to music. You can also find full albums at merex.bandcamp.com. You can follow Daniel or I on Blue Sky, ask us questions there. Sometimes we answer them in our Patreon episodes, which is what I want to get to the most, because we have a Patreon. And when you support our Patreon, you get access to 2 extra episodes a month. These are shorter episodes, but they are a little bit more relaxed. Dan and I are a little more freewheeling with the old F words. That's not the gay slur. That's the fucks. Just to be clear. So support the show and get 2 exclusive bonus episodes a month for $5 at patreon.com/quickquestion. And if you're an Apple person, you can sign up right from the Apple Podcast app. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
I've got a quick question for you, alright? I wanna hear your thoughts, I wanna know what's on your mind. I've got a quick question for you, alright? The answer's not important, I'm just glad that we could talk tonight. So what's your favourite? How did you get? When will I be remembered? Was it ever? Where did all the right we know? Oh, forget it. Soren, Daniel O'Brien. To best friends and comedy writers. If there's an answer, they're gonna find it. I think you'll have a great time here. I think you'll have a great time here.